I know what's going on. I have both swings up. So we're gonna start with the swing on the left is Manny hitting a pitch middle away that he's totally cheating on, and we know he's cheating because he dives more on this pitch.
Sorry, I don't. Is this from the open
The
view?
front view, the front
Front
pitcher's
view.
view. Yep. So you can see how much he's closed off with his stride. So if we were to draw a line from his back toe to his front toe, you can see that toe line is facing like the second baseman. So he's trying to keep everything closed as much as possible. You can see his upper body, his chest is closed, his hips are still very closed here. Even when we bring him to heel plant, which most people will really fly that front hip open, it opens a little bit, but it's not like crazy opening, right? It's not, I mean, everybody is so concerned about pelvic tilt and 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 opening the hips and creating as much separation as possible. I'm telling you, like, it is important, but it's important. It's so much more important to find a barrel. It really is. Like, I can't emphasize that enough that athletes are going to move this way. Like, hitters from the beginning of time have created separation. I remember my dad's first VHS tape in the late 90s. He brought everybody to a torque position. He brought Babe Ruth to the torque position where his front hip opened before his hands came through. He brought Willie Mays and DiMaggio and Hank Aaron and every possible Hall of Famer you could think of, even Ken Griffey, who was still playing in that same position. Were they taught, hey, I need you to try to open up your front hip? No, it's a very athletic move that 95% of players will do naturally if they're same sided, meaning Manny was a right handed thrower and he's a right handed hitter. The only time I don't see that is with a left handed hitter that's a right handed thrower. Then it's not natural. But it's a very natural athletic position that, I mean, if you took a hockey player or a football player, or, well, I shouldn't say a football player, not a basketball player, but a hockey player or
Well, a quarterback in
a
football, a
quarterback,
quarterback
yeah,
throws. Yeah.
somebody that throws, or I don't know, I forgot, a golfer, and you had them hit, like they would get into that position. Now their arms probably wouldn't be very good because they don't know how to control the bat, but their legs would work properly, like guaranteed they would work properly. So again, don't overteach something that a player probably does naturally. If you try to get an extra 3 to 5 degrees of torque or separation between your upper and lower half, it's not going to make that player a Hall of Famer. They're not going to hit the ball 20 feet further or 30 feet further or 50 feet further. It's just not going to happen. Okay. So let them stay within their limits of what their body will do. We'll look at both of these. Manny Ramirez hit balls further and harder than most players, and he has a decent amount of torque. In fact, if we look at the side view where I have it stopped right now with Manny, he looks almost identical to Correa, who's a 28, 25 to 30 degree separation guy. He's not a 40-degree separation guy. Okay. So anyway, this is what made Manny such a good opposite field hitter is he could stay closed for a really long time. So then as he goes through, notice how his hip and his back elbow are kind of going at the same time. Okay, he's not leaving his hands back. And as he comes to approach this, you can see the barrel stays above the hands until the last second. There's his approach position. Boom. Then the barrel drops underneath his hands. And as he hits this ball to right field, notice where his hips are facing. Okay, so if you bring him to contact, his hips are facing almost where he's hitting this ball, which is right center field. Okay. Now, what I see with most players that don't use their hands very well, right? They over rotate, they spin their hips. What happens is this belt buckle would be facing the shortstop side. If the hands were facing right center field, they would slice across that ball and they would hit a flare to right field. So going a little bit further with Manny, look at when he releases that right hand and extends into his power V. Notice how his power V is to the right side of the camera here. It's to the right of the pitcher. That is so very good on pitches middle away. And Manny used to, I mean, he cheated middle away all the time. Like he'd cheat middle away. He would cheat off speed pitches all the time. He knew what he was looking for. And because his mechanics were good, he didn't miss it. That's why mechanics are important because it makes your barrel plane consistent. It makes your ability to find a barrel in the contact zone more consistent. So then all of a sudden, if you're smart and you know what the pitcher is trying to do to you and you have a plan, then all of a sudden you can put those mechanics to use. But good mechanics without a plan, well, that doesn't, you just look good in BP. That doesn't show up. That doesn't show up in games.
Did he look, Manny? Did he look middle away because he was so quick in and he knew he was never going to get beat on an inside pitch?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know the answer to that. Or did he just in certain situations and counts he just cheated away? So what I would see with Manny a lot is he would look a certain pitch and then he would take anything else. So if he was looking breaking ball and they threw him a fastball middle or middle in, he wouldn't even swing at it.
Yeah. Okay.
But even if that breaking ball wasn't a hanger, even if it was on the corner, he was so locked in looking for that pitch that he was still able to get barrel on it. That's what made him so good. Like he didn't if you're looking for a fastball and somebody hangs a breaking ball, you're going to hit it good. If you're looking for a fastball and somebody throws a decent breaking ball that is on the quarters, the outer fourth or the inner fourth, you're not going to hit it. But if you're cheating on that breaking ball because whatever, you hit a fastball really hard your last at bat, and then they throw that breaking ball on the outer channel or the inner channel, you can still hit it successfully. And that's the making of a good hitter, smart hitter. So if we go to, and again, one of the things that is overly taught now is, your spine angle, right? Being perpendicular to your bat angle. Okay? Like it happens. I mean, I've been talking about that for like, how long have I been teaching and using video? Since like 20 years. And I've never once taught a person, hey, I need you to like tilt in to drop your barrel a little bit. But this is taught so much, that turn, that what happens is instead of the spine being there, what happens is it ends up being, the shoulders end up being like that. The spine ends up being like that. And then all of a sudden the barrel's down here like this. And they'll cut across it too much. Okay. So that's why you're seeing so many pitches nowadays thrown up here. Because now all of a sudden everybody's been taught to lean in with their spine. They can't get their spine and keep their posture like this. And that's really the making of a good high ball hitter and a low ball hitter. Low ball hitters typically lean in more and drop their back shoulder more. High ball hitters don't. Like Correa doesn't do that very much, where a guy like Springer drops his back shoulder more. And that's why Springer hits the pitch down better than he hits the pitch up. Okay. And that's what everybody needs to know. Springer needs to know that. He ain't going to get pitched down here on purpose, right? Like they're gonna try to get him out here at the belly button, and he'll have to make an adjustment to do that. And when guys can cover both, like this dude, Bonds, I mean, everybody think Bonds, this home run hitter, Bonds hit pitches up really well. His top hand was really strong, and he was able to keep his bat head flat. But when you can do both, now all of a sudden you'd be a Hall of Famer. Unfortunately, Manny has the stats to be a Hall of Famer, but he didn't have the natural remedies. He had the unnatural, according to some.
Bonds also has the numbers too.
That's right.
Best of all time.
That's
robbed of the Hall of Fame over and over again.
You still got to get that barrel in the right spot.
Yeah.
I'm convinced that illegal substances, they do certain things, right? They make you stronger. They make you recover faster. Most importantly, I think they keep you from being injured. And I think that's what helped, athletes play longer. And when you play longer, what do? You hit more home runs. And
but those perform. I think this is what you're alluding to.
Performance, yes,
His swing here. Those performance enhancing drugs don't make him as fundamentally sound as he is. That's repetition after repetition after repetition. That's thousands of hours of him and Bonds, but talking with Manny today, that's thousands of hours of repetitions to get it right. That there's no drug in the world that'll magically make your body or muscle memory get into the proper place to be able to do what he did.
No. Maybe it makes him 1/100th of a second quicker to the ball. so he can
Yeah.
see the ball a little bit further. It makes him play through injuries. But absolutely, it doesn't. As far as I know, and I'm not a doctor, but I don't think it makes your vision any better. I'm not sure if it makes your brain clarity stronger or if it increases your intelligence, but you can, you can hit. There's a lot of guys, countless guys that I played with in the minor leagues that were on steroids, and they didn't make it anywhere.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like a super drug. All right, so let's go back to now. We're going to go look at Manny from the side. Okay. And the reason I chose this is because, and I know he did play for the Rays, but he's playing at Tropicana Field at the time. Okay.
Yeah.
We can see that in the background. But if you watch him, it's just so simple. I mean, he gets to his launch position right about here. And I know we can't see his feet quite yet. But if you look here, his chest is facing back here and, his belt is facing here. So if we were to put a torque angle on that, this isn't going to be a huge number, of separation here. If I go perpendicular to his hips, he's low 30s at best. Okay. If we go perpendicular to his hip line, which I'm pretty sure I did, hip to hip, pretty close. So he's probably 30 to 33 degrees of separation. Okay. And then as he rotates through, here's what's so great is his eyes stay level. But again, we've looked at this with all the players. This is the hard part with amateurs is that when they rotate, they throw the bat away from the head, right? If you were to snap the barrel, that barrel's going to be back here. It's not going to be up here next to his ear. This is a perfect position. This is what we call, all my instructors, we try to speak the same language. We call this the short approach. It's kind of between these two frames. The short approach is when the upper body faces the front foot. So we've started to rotate. Where are the hands? Look how far out in front his hands are already. The knob of the bat is like at his pec. His back elbow hasn't even hit his ribs yet. That is what makes players consistent and on plane for a long time. If we don't,
I was just going to remark about how tight his turn is. Sorry, but
yeah,
his turn is so tight.
yeah, and it's efficient, and he didn't leave his hands behind. He didn't manipulate his hands rearward. He just kind of turned briefly his elbows from the top. Okay. Now his hands are moving faster, or his arms are moving faster than his chest here, so he's using his hands to pull his hands forward, but he's not casting. He's not throwing that barrel down to the pitch plane. Okay, he's probably not going to get to the pitch plane if I continue to bring him through until most of the time I like to get guys on plane at about there, right before their front knee. So I'm going to draw a line on the blur of the ball coming in, and then I'm going to put an angle on that because this camera angle is really good. So this will tell us what the pitch plane is. And this is a long time ago. Okay, this isn't like last year where people have super duper high spin rates, but it says 5 degrees. I'll redraw it so we can see it on the screen. It's only a 5-degree downslope. So if you swing up at 20, right, and the ball's only coming in at 5, you're not going to have a huge contact point. So ideally, you'd like to be 5 for the most part. Okay, 5 to 10, 5 to 15 at the most. But if you don't know how to be at 5, then we're not going to have very good success. And you can see he extended through that pitch plane pretty well. He probably could have stayed on plane a little bit longer, but notice his extension. Like that power V on the one on the right, we'll go one more frame. You can see how much more it's to the left, right? When he gets fully extended, both arms are fully extended. It's higher and it's more to the left, where if we look at the power V on the outside pitch, notice how it's low and to the right. If your power V looks the same on pitches in and away, you're not hitting pitches away very well. You're slicing across those. You're hitting a lot of high fly balls to right field that aren't going to carry, or a lot of foul balls. So this is a really cool comparison because one, he's really cheating, hitting the ball the other way, and the other one's middle in that he's turning on and hitting. Actually, he didn't hit this one. Oh, it was left center. This one on the right was left center. So he did pull it, but it wasn't like it was pulled down the line, which makes sense because he makes contact about right here at his front foot. Okay, so it wasn't like he was super early on it, but he hit it to left center field really far. And that's why his extension is more to the left. So really important to kind of understand. We don't see the move here with Manny on the front view. If I bring him back to when he launches the swing, look how vertical his bat is here. He would have a very bad plane score. So we talk about blast motion, which I use a ton of, but I use the raw numbers. I don't use their different scores. And the reason I don't use their different scores is in this position, they want the bat to be perpendicular to the spine. And if it's not at launch, this would be called early connection. If it's not, you get a really bad score. So Manny would look at his blast and be like, "Oh, I got a red mark." Right? Like my connection, my early connection wasn't very good. Okay? Now maybe my late connection was good. Okay? But my early connection wasn't good. So a lot of times those devices, we have to know how to use them. But if you're keeping that barrel up and you're not laying it off, you're keeping that barrel very vertical, sometimes you might get bad scores. So that's why I always tell players, if you're using technology, I always say, talk to me. I'll tell you
Right.
what numbers, and that's a big part of my coach's training is, look, we have all this technology. These are the numbers you want to look at. And that's just from experience. It's from, I've been doing this a long time and I know what's important and what's not. Let's spend time on this number, and this number, and not worry about the other different scores. Because the same as with K-Vest. We talked about K-Vest and other people, that aren't in sequence, right? Instead of their hips reaching maximum speed first, and then their torso reaching maximum speed second, their upper arm third, and their hand fourth. They're like, hips, hands, then shoulders. Okay, well, that person is a major league all-star. Like most big leaguers are like that. But if you're trying to teach it like golf, which most people try to do when they look at the numbers, then all of a sudden they'll get players that start spinning and not using their hands enough. And again, maybe you look really good in this computer program, but you don't look good on the field. I want you to look good on the field, like Brett,
That's where it counts.
who hit a home run. I got a text from the coach. They're in the middle of the game. One of the other kids, Max's dad, helps us at the lab. Caleb Dickinson, he hit a home run too in the first inning. I mean, these kids are killing it because we prepare them the right way. We're not uber concerned about, hey, now some people are, oh, don't you think their barrel should be here, that, and the other? Maybe, but I want them to do good on the field. That's all I care about, results on the field.
I'm at a point with it's the open view side, and I stopped it at the point of contact when you were drawing the line. What can you tell from the point of contact where he is? What can you tell the audience about the leverage that he's generating right there in that position? Firm front side and hips and cleared. What can you tell us about his leverage right there?
Yeah, so, we're talking about this here, just making sure everybody heard Jim, at this point of contact here, what are we seeing, like his leverage? So one of the things you want to see is his front side is firm but not locked yet. If you go a frame or two later, it will lock out, okay? The other thing is if you bring him to contact and you go one frame before, notice the angle of his right arm. This is a real issue that players have. I was working with a player yesterday with this. So before contact, the angle of his right arm is 100 and roughly 10 degrees. At contact, the frame later, it went from 109 to 126. And then one frame after contact, it went from 126 to 145. What does that mean? He's extending through the ball. Okay, so many people are taught, keep the elbow tucked to the ribs and have a power L and you just spin off and rotate, okay? Yeah. So he's extending through the ball with his right arm. What does that do? That keeps our chest from over-rotating. So if we also look at this position, things that I look for is, can I see Boston written on his chest? Yes. With so many young players, they've over-rotated so much with their body that their shoulders are on an angle like this. Their chest might be facing like the left field line, but their bat is facing center field. and that's a real problem with young players. So that's something that I look for as well. But yeah, it's a wonderful position. Like this is a textbook position. His back shin is down. If we draw this line, it's at his kneecap. Sometimes I like it a little bit lower than that, but he's pretty close there. He's not holding any weight on his backside, but he's not lunging. So there's no weight on his back foot. His back foot's totally vertical, but his spine angle is rearward. So his weight will be back right there when he finishes rotating fast. So he's rotating back behind the ball. He had a weight transfer forward. Then he rotated. He took that forward energy and turned it into rotational velocity, and he did it by tilting rearward. And then at the end of the swing, his weight ends up back. It was just a perfect swing.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and another question I had though, I want to go back to the front view swing on the outside pitch. This is when he was with the Dodgers, by the way. The question I have, what does he do a bat? Does he have a bat tip in his load with his hands? What's he doing with his wrists there, in his load? Is it some kind of bat tip, or he's doing something there? Because his hands aren't still, the barrel's not still. What's he doing?
Right.
It's not a full bat tip though, like Ted Williams used to do.
No, he does. He just kind of brings it vertical. But I think if we really break that down, watch his elbows as he does it. So it's not just a hand snap. So if I mark this elbow and we kind of watch his back, he's actually loading his shoulder. So as he loads his back shoulder up,
yeah,
notice how the bat goes up. Okay, so
the front shoulder's going down.
And the front shoulder's going down. So you can see how much the tilt in his shoulders changed. And then that was probably, his bat was probably a couple degrees back here. So it was more of a shoulder kind of move when he loaded his body. Then all of a sudden, he'll drop his hands down and through and pull the knob outside. So when people talk about knob to the ball, that was a common phrase that kind of seemed, well, every big leaguer said it, every hitting coach said it. But then all of a sudden it got debunked because it's like, why would you want to hit the knob with the ball? Right? Like you want to hit the ball with the barrel. But if you look at this frame here on the left, notice how he pulls that ball. That knob isn't going towards the third baseman. That knob's going towards the second baseman. Then it goes towards the ball. It's kind of looking out here somewhere. I mean, that frame there where his knob is facing the ball. Then as he rotates his body, then that knob gets out of the way. But quite honestly, knob to the ball right away when your front foot lands and you first start to swing is a good cue if it's explained correctly. Then as we rotate, then that knob turns left to release the barrel. But if you always pull the knob left and keep that left wrist and left arm close to the body instead of getting that left arm out in front and maybe even out in front towards the pitcher or towards the opposite handed, for Manny towards the second baseman side, for you being a lefty towards the shortstop side, that frisbee move, which we've talked about, that sets up whip. That sets up a lot of whip. And if we don't create whip, then we need to find energy somewhere else. And sometimes that's by spinning the body more or trying to rotate faster, which can be good and can be bad, right? Sometimes if we just think about turning and rotating, then all of a sudden we just have one swing. That's not adjustable. We just kind of twist and hopefully our timing's right.
When does his torque initiate here? Because it's kind of tough to see frame by frame because the foot light kick and the foot lands.
Yeah,
plants,
it's right at heel plant. If we look at his, at toe touch, no, his front hip is totally closed at toe touch. But as he drops his heel, you'll watch his pocket, not his pocket, but the belt loop go behind that mark that I made, and that's really the torque that is created right there at heel plant. And you can see his front foot's very closed here. See how closed it is? Because he's cheating the other way. Is it? Yeah, it's hard to...
I guess
I don't think it's closed that much. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's probably like 40 degrees. 90 would be facing the pitcher.
And how about his bat lag, too? I mean, he releases the barrel early on this outside pitch.
Yeah, he gets the knob out in front, and then he's got to throw that barrel to right field. So you definitely have to throw the barrel away from your body sooner on an outside pitch because that creates our contact point. So we can cover more pitch by releasing the barrel early. But if I stop you here right after contact And then I say, what if this pitch was inside?
Mm-hmm.
And I draw a line up. Oh my God, he would have broken his thumb, his right thumb, right? So could he have hit this ball there? Well, he would have to hit it there, and that would be totally foul. Okay, if he did hit that inside pitch there. So it's a different move. That pitch outside, you pull that knob more to right field. On a pitch inside, you're going to turn the knob more and then release it later. So this is all my instructors that are listening. Um, this is our exits on the freeway. You know, this is how we exit different parts of the swing to cover different pitches.
Mm-hmm.
I won't go into that because that's like a 2-hour conversation.
Yeah. Another question I had though